You're welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
And
How
the
are
person
you?
who I'm well, thank God. The person I welcome is Siobhan Ferran of the Police and Community Safety Partnership. You're busy,
Yes, yes, always busy.
of course. You're in the early days, the first days of the new diaspora, the new council entity, Newry Morning Down. Has that affected you at all in the safety partnership?
Oh, very, very, very much so. Well, we're a much bigger district for a start, so
Yeah.
you're actually looking. I mean, we're running the whole length of the district. So we've brought together the Police and Community Safety Partnership in Down, what was Down
Yeah.
District Council, and our own legacy Newry and Mourne Council as well. So we've basically been busy over the last number of months working to sort of prioritise the action plans.
Yeah. Has it been a
from
bedding
both.
in sort of time?
Well, there's been an element of that, but there's also been, it hasn't stopped at the same time. There's just, I suppose, this constant, I suppose we're all trying to work towards sort of working together and finding a new way of working and stuff as well, and covering kind of all of the work, that all the pieces that we would have done previously as two separate entities, and now coming together as one. So we are, I mean, there's a number of projects that we'll be getting ready to roll out. Some of them will be familiar, some of them will be new to either side, or some of them will be new to the district as a whole. So the actual Policing and Community Safety Partnership, which is made up of our, there's 10 elected members from the new council and 9 independent members, as well as a number of statutory bodies. So they're due to be reconstituted now at the end of this month, the 25th of June.
Siobhan, is it maybe a good opportunity to tell people, remind people exactly what the partnership does?
Oh, well, absolutely. But basically, the partnership looks at basically the community safety issues for the district, and we would work with our partners. Obviously, the key ones there being the local PSNI. Would work very closely with the neighbourhood team in sort of targeting maybe antisocial behaviour hotspots, vulnerability, people who maybe fear of crime, maybe the elderly, promoting neighbourhood watch, promoting farm watch for rural crime issues, looking at seasonal issues, like for example your Halloween, when you would see an upsurge of antisocial behaviour at different times. So we'd be looking at different ways to target those sort of things. We also would have ongoing work around kind of Home Secure and the Good Morning Good Neighbour. We would fund those services locally.
Good Morning Good Neighbour, I find interesting. Is that the phone call that's made?
The phone call.
Hello, how are you doing this morning?
And it might be as little as how are you doing, and you've had the call. It might be a little bit longer. There might be some issues for you on a particular morning. So those are the sort of things, and that's run. It's purely on a volunteer basis, as volunteers would come in through the Confederation of Community Groups and operate that service. And similarly, the Home Secure, where you may have been either the victim of crime, perhaps burglary, or you may be particularly vulnerable to crime, or it may be a case of maybe a domestic violence situation or whatever. You can get a visit from the local crime prevention officer, or maybe through one of the counsellors as well, and get referred into that scheme for locks and bolts and things like that as well.
I know of being a victim in a crime situation. I was a young man at the time, and I was glad I was a young man at the time. I was heavily into diving, and I had a great strong diving torch made out of iron, and it was very, very good. I'm in my house on Daisy Hill Gardens in the middle of the night. I'm in the house alone. My wife and children are staying with her mother. Her father is not too well. And I hear the window of the conservatory open and close. I ignore it. I think it's nothing. Within 5 minutes, I hear the creak of the floorboard outside my bedroom door. Took the torch, switched the torch on, pulled the door open, and there he was standing, about 6 feet of thin beanpole of a fellow with a balaclava on the top of the stairs. And I blinded him with a torch, and I warned him that if he didn't do as I told him, I would use the torch on his head. Took him downstairs, put him sitting down, called the police, and started to search around the house and made sure everything was all right. So held him there until the police came, gave him over to the police. He eventually got, well, what happened then, I thought maybe he's not on his own in the house. And I started looking and discovered the leather sheath of my bone-handled camping knife lying on the kitchen floor with a knife missing. Searched a wee bit further. He had the knife ditched onto the chair where I'd put him sitting. He had had the knife upstairs with him all the time. Now, if I had that, on that occasion, if I had behaved wrongly, if I hadn't managed it the way I managed it, he would have just, and I would have been in trouble. Now, he got a 6-month sentence, suspended for 2 years. To this day, and it's 60 years later, if a fly lights, as we say in this part of the world, on my bedroom window at night time, I'm up and I'm looking. Being a victim has grown across the 60 years since. So victimhood is very, very serious.
No, I think it is. I mean, and that fear of crime is something that's very, very tangible for people, even if you haven't been, if you're feeling vulnerable to it. It's not about perhaps losing something valuable or even something sentimental. I mean, I know the sentimental stuff that, you know, if something is stolen from you, you know, you can never replace that.
Absolutely.
But even with the sort of the physical act of theft, there is still that emotional impact on people, and I think you've described it there perfectly. 60 years later,
You're still
that feeling
aware
is still there with you. So I mean, and that's very, very difficult. And if you multiply that with somebody who's maybe, you know, in their 80s or, you know, living alone, you know, vulnerable, isolated, and it happens to them then, it's a very difficult situation.
I heard the story recently of a person who was robbed in his home, and he was tied to the bedstead and held there, and they were threatening and they were demanding, and there was no money. And they just roared and shouted and roared and shouted and roared and shouted. But I mean, that's part and parcel of what you're about. Now, in the new district, all the way out to Strangford almost, are there different issues as you head east in the district?
Well, I think that is something, and I think that's something that's going to come out more and more. But certainly, I mean, we know from kind of coming together to date some of the stuff that's coming out for us that, for example, rural crime, looking at the theft of livestock, is something that's a bigger sort of issue in what would have been the old. Our old council area, so you do have elements of that there that, you know, different parts of the districts will deserve different sort of priorities, different types of funding.
And do you have staff there unique to those areas? You have teams over in Downpatrick and
we have the PCSP team in Downpatrick and the PCSP.
Separate to your own?
Well, no, we're one team now.
One team?
But
you have enough people?
We are looking, when we also have more people.
Yeah.
Put that plug in right away.
Yeah.
But
no one robbed you. No one took the opportunity of the new councils to cut you seriously.
Well, no, we're still operating in the same way now. That's I suppose that's up for discussion and debate, what way the new structure will finally look like, you know, maybe in a year or two. But you know, certainly for the minute, it's the existing staff are basically working together and looking at the issues that do affect the district. And that's to say, one of the new programmes that we are going to be rolling out for the new district is tackling again rural crime. The issue of freeze branding livestock. So we'll be promoting that actually at the new show now.
Freeze branding?
Freeze branding. It's amazing the things you learn on the job.
But you say it as though you've known it all your life.
All my life, absolutely. No, basically it is. I mean, what you would have used to been looking at was a burn actually on cows. This is like a dry ice tattoo essentially on the cow, so it doesn't hurt them. There's no issue there in terms of harming any animals with it. And so the cows will be branded with the unique identifying numbers from their ear tags. Because we have found that the ear tags can be removed and put on other cattle.
Oh my God,
so
yes,
you
of
do
course.
have issues there in terms of traceability and all of that sort of stuff as well. So this will be one that we'll be actually promoting. We're going to start promoting it through the agricultural show now, I think on the 20th or the 27th, I can't remember which date
here
it
in
is.
Newry.
Here in Newry. And so that will be rolled out and offered to the first number of farmers that sign up for that as a pilot scheme. And if that's successful, then that's something we'd be looking obviously then to build for future years.
You recently had a meeting with your police colleagues. What were the issues facing them at this moment? What were they telling you?
Well, I suppose there's a lot of changes within the policing structures as well. So again, that's going to be sort of a finding out what way we actually, what way we'll be working together. So there are changes in personnel, changes in the way that neighbourhoods neighbourhood is going to be used in the district, the neighbourhood teams. So those changes are due to come into effect in October. So as I say, you know, going back to talking about kind of getting bedded in, it'll be sort of the September, October, November time when we start to sort of, I suppose,
Yes.
really fully realise, you know, how things are actually going to operate on the ground on a day-to-day basis.
Newry Nights.
Newry Nights, yes.
Tell the people about Newry
Newry
Nights.
Nights. Newry Nights are wonderful. Newry Nights, as your listeners will know, and again, an entirely volunteer-led project with the Salvation Army. We have a number of volunteers currently operating on Saturday nights. They're out from 11 to 3 or 4, depending on how busy it is. And we're actually now at the moment going to our third recruitment to build the numbers for that. So we're running that on the 20th and the 27th. We're asking people to commit to 2 full-day training. You'll have a lot of training around things like conflict management, self-awareness, self-protection, all of that sort of stuff, active listening, and you know, so full training is actually provided for it, and then we'll be asking people then to commit to 1 or 2 Saturday nights a month.
It's interesting because, you know, it's a big ask for
It's a
people
huge ask.
to
I'm
come
so
out of the
appreciative of people.
comfort and coziness and
Yeah.
safety of their homes and go onto the streets and talk and work with people who are very often talking gibberish and acting in a gibberish way. You want to...
I'll let you use the gibberish term.
I wouldn't be very good at it. I wouldn't be very good at it. I think I'd lose the head. But there are horses for courses.
The horse for course, but I do know that the volunteers themselves will say, you know, they get a lot of fun, they get a lot of pleasure actually out of it as well. I mean, you know, it is such a big ask. You know, you are giving up your Saturday night, and that obviously does impact into your Sunday as well.
Yeah, of course.
But you know,
But you're getting the people,
yeah, the reception they actually get from people who are out enjoying their few drinks or whatever has been amazing, and they have made a difference. You know, it may have been that they've called an ambulance, they may have had to call the police, they may have just maybe sat with somebody, got them a taxi home. So there's been from the small to the bigger bits, they are making a real difference. They're 6 months in operation and they're making a real difference.
People.
And they need people, so we really would encourage people to volunteer.
To be a unique kind of good Samaritan in your own community and get out there and make a difference. Anything else? We're running to the end of our time.
Running to the end of our time. No, well, I think there's lots of things going on, as I say. Could come back and talk to you another day, I'm sure.
You will.
When some of our other things are
we'd
up
be
and
lost
running.
without you. It's good to have you in here. And thank you for coming.
No, thank you.
That Siobhan Ferran, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm Rowan Hand. This is Destination Newry, the morning programme.